Okay, so to simulate pass by reference with the use of a pointer, this is how we do it. Okay, so in main you have num1 with value 25, and you also have another variable num2. Then we just declare an additional variable which is a pointer and assigned it with the address of num1. So in your function call here, instead of having the argument ampersand num1, then we can just simply use the pointer variable ptr as our argument to our function call. Okay, so if we trace it, it will look like this. So in main, you have here value num1, which has the value 25. Okay, and you have a value num2, which has, variable num2, which has no value yet, and a pointer variable ptr. So if we assign ptr the address of num1, and assuming that the address of num1 is at address 100, so ptr now will have the value 100 here, and it will now be pointing to num1. Okay, so in our add function, it has one parameter which is also a pointer. Okay, so when we invoke this function call here, so the address stored in ptr will be copied to the parameter number. Okay, so number here will also have the value, the address 100, and it will also be pointing to num1. So in short, number will have an access to the value 25. So using a dereferencing operator, we dereference the value 25 and increment it. So 25 here now will become 26. Okay, and then since we have a return statement, so this function call will be replaced by the value 26, and it will be stored in num2. So num2 will also have the value 26. So that's the effect of passing by reference. Okay, so the value that we used will now be affected by the changes made inside the function add. Okay, now let's talk about the relationship between arrays and pointers. Pointers and arrays are almost identical in terms of how they are used to access memory. So what are the similarity and the difference between array name and a pointer? So their similarity is that they are both addresses. Okay, so a pointer can contain an address, and an array name is also an address, particularly the address of its first element. The difference is that since a pointer is a variable, then its address can be changed, or the address stored in it can be changed anytime since it's a variable. Whereas an array name is constant, or it's fixed, because it will always refer to the address of the first element. Okay, so again, they are the same because they are both addresses, but they are different because pointer is a variable, so its address can be changed, whereas an array name is constant because it will always refer to the address of its first element. So for example, we have here an array rate of type float with 100 elements, and we have a pointer variable ptr, which is a pointer to float. The first statement here is correct. We can assign a constant rate to the variable ptr. Okay, but this one is not correct. We cannot assign a variable ptr to a constant rate. So it's like in algebra. Okay, so it would be okay to assign a variable x with any value, let's say 10, but can never assign a constant with a variable. Okay, so the analogy is similar to this one. Okay, so since arrays and pointers are related or somewhat related, then meaning to say, to access an array, you can also use pointers. Okay, so for example, if you want to sum numbers from 1 to max, the usual way we do it is to use array indexing, and it looks like this. Okay, this skeletal code here. Okay, So using array indexing, we can sum the numbers from 1 to max. So in this case, the value of max is 10. But this is not the only way to do it. We can also use pointers to do the same thing of adding the numbers from 1 to max. Like for example here, we can declare a pointer variable p, and to use pointers instead of array indexing, our for loop will now look like this. So we initialize p with the base address of our array, and the condition will be set to this. Okay, so we don't need anymore a variable I for the index. So we just simply use the pointer, okay, and increment that pointer using the increment operator with each iteration of the loop. Or we can also use this way, okay, or we can also do that with the combination of pointers and array indexing. Okay, so as you can see, there are a lot of ways to do this function, which is summing numbers from 1 to max. Okay, so you can trace this one and you can see that you will get the same output. Okay, so how about pointers to char and arrays of type char? Okay, so here's an example of initializing the char pointer s to the address of the first character of the string. Okay, so s here is a pointer to char, and we initialized it with the address of the string my sunshine, not with the actual string my sunshine, but the address of the string my sunshine, particularly the address of its first character, which is the address of m here. Okay, so this declaration with an initialization is actually equivalent to this two-line statement here. Okay, so first we declare the pointer s1 and we initialize s1 with the address of the string my sunshine. Okay, so it's an example of a pointer to car, while this one is an array of type char. So the value of s2 here is the actual string my sunshine, which is equivalent to this lines here. So first we declare s2 as an array with maximum of 20 elements, because the last cell would be intended for the null terminator, and then using string copy we assign the string my sunshine to s2. So as you can see, they are different. So again, s1 here is a pointer to char, and its value would be the address of the string my sunshine, while s2 here is an array of type char, and its value would be the actual string my sunshine. Okay, so we can also mix array and pointer syntax in manipulating arrays. Okay, so let's have an example here. So here, blocks is an array of type char with 3 elements, a, b, and c, and assuming that these are the cell addresses, so element A is at address 4434, element B is 4435, and element C is 4436. Okay, then we have a pointer variable ptr, which we initialize to the address of the first element of the array blocks. So what happens here is that ptr will now have the value 4434. Okay, so take note that instead of writing it this way, instead of using the ampersand operator and the index 0, you can just simply use the word blocks, which is an array name. Okay, as you can recall, an array name always refers to the address of its first element. Okay, then temp has no value yet. Okay, then we assign temp with blocks index 0, meaning the value located at index 0, which is A. So that's going to be the value of temp here. That's why temp here has the value A.